I've always wanted to share this story, but I've decided to use an old throwaway account to do it. Normally, I just lurk, and honestly, I don't care if anyone doubts me. Because if you've ever lived in a rural part of South Asia, you'll know this is far more plausible than it sounds. When I was 8 years old, my mom, Amira, took me to visit her side of the family. She was born and raised in the UK, but her family's roots were deep in a rural part of South Asia. She worked hard to make sure I stayed connected to my culture. So, almost every summer I could remember was spent there. And then, after this particular trip, the visits stopped completely. My mom's family home was one of the nicer places in the area, at least compared to the poverty that surrounded it. Outside our part of the village, we rarely wandered. From the moment we arrived, my mom made one thing clear. I was not to explore on my own. Being from London, surrounded by concrete and glass, I was fascinated by the endless trees, the dusty roads, and the strange mixture of silence and constant noise that only rural villages seem to have. I was curious, and curiosity is dangerous when you're young. One day, my uncle from a neighboring village came to visit, bringing his 2 sons, my cousins, Rayhan and Omar. Rayhan was 11. Omar was 19. That afternoon, my mom gave permission for me to walk with them to a small hut-like shop about 15 minutes away. It sold sweets, snacks, and, as I would soon learn, ice cream. We walked along a narrow, uneven road, lined on both sides with thick green jungle. It wasn't like a rainforest, just dense trees and tangled bushes stretching as far as you could see. Beyond that greenery, nothing was visible, just shadows and the whisper of leaves in the wind. It was broad daylight. I was mixed race with pale skin from my dad's East Asian side. And in that part of the country, I stood out like a beacon. I was used to stares and to the comments from strange men who told me I was beautiful because I was light-skinned. My mom had warned me about them, to stay close to my family, to never go anywhere alone. That road to the shop was lined with a few of those types. Men leaning on walls, watching us pass. Rayhan and Omar walked protectively on either side of me. We passed a group of young men, some with motorbikes, others lounging on the roadside. One of them smiled and waved at me. He didn't look threatening, more like one of those friendly strangers my mom sometimes insisted I must have met on a previous visit. So I waved back. At the hut, we lost ourselves in snacks. The owner was cheerful, generous, letting us sample treats, offering us candies I'd never seen before. Then, I saw the ice cream, the first I'd seen here. Excited, I asked for 3, one for my mom, one for the family cook, and one for me. The owner smiled and gave me 4. They were already melting in my hands, so he told me to run home before they were gone. I told Rayhan and Omar I'd go ahead. They could catch up once they were done. They'd still see me from a distance. It was still daylight. It was still a busy road. So I ran until I saw a group of older village women at the top of the road. Something about their presence made me feel safe. I slowed to a walk, licking at the quickly melting ice cream. And then, I passed the group of motorbike men again. The one who had waved stepped toward me. "You're Yusuf's niece, right?" he asked, using my uncle's name. Before I could answer, he reached out, laughing, and plucked one of my ice creams from my hand. "For your mama," he said, using the word for uncle in our language. I assumed he was a friend of my uncle's. He asked when I'd arrived how I liked the country. His tone was light, friendly, disarming. But when I said I was heading home, his smile changed. "Let Uncle take you," he said. "You can ride on my motorbike." That was the moment my stomach dropped. Something in his eyes shifted, and suddenly I noticed the others half circle around me, blocking the road behind. The village women were gone. Rayhan and Omar were out of sight, and I was alone. Before I could move, I heard shouting, my cousins running at full speed. The men scattered, melting into the trees like they'd never been there. That's what chilled me the most. How quickly they disappeared into that endless wall of green. Back at the house, my mom was furious. I wasn't allowed out of her sight for the rest of the trip. And, though I didn't say it out loud, every so often I felt eyes on me. On the road, by the window, even the yard. A few nights later, I saw him again. I was playing on my Nintendo DS in my bedroom when I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned toward the window and froze. It was him, the same man, standing outside in the dark, his face pressed close to the glass. And he was smiling, that slow, twisted smile you never forget. Then, he put a finger to his lips. I did the opposite. I screamed loud, panicked until my throat hurt. I don't know what happened after that. No one ever told me. All I know is my uncle and a few of his friends dealt with it, and I never saw that man again. Years later, I learned the truth. My uncle had ordered a section of jungle cut down not long after our visit. When I asked why, my mom said one word: head cutters. At the time, a gang had been kidnapping children, mostly beggars, sometimes even local kids. Many were never found, and sometimes heads would turn up. Our village had kept it quiet to avoid shame, but everyone knew. Cutting down the jungle had taken away their hiding spots. That's when I understood, if I'd gotten on that motorbike, I wouldn't be here telling this story. My name is Samantha, and I'm 21 years old. This was supposed to be my very first backpacking trip around the world. A new adventure, a fresh start. I had only arrived in Thailand 2 days earlier, and on my very first night, I almost got kidnapped. That night, I decided to explore Bangalore Road, a place famous for its bright neon lights, constant music, and the feeling that the night never ends. It was crowded, loud, and alive. Tourists mixed with locals, street performers, and vendors trying to get your attention. I had a few beers at a bar, chatted with some strangers, and then headed into a popular club called Illusion. Inside, it was dark and hazy. The lights flashed in quick bursts. The bass thumped so deep you could feel it in your chest. I was having a good time, dancing, meeting people, just soaking in the atmosphere. I'd only had 3 drinks, tequila mixed with orange juice, and I thought I was fine. But at some point, things started to blur. I felt much more drunk than I should have been. That's when the thought hit me, maybe my drink had been spiked. I had made a stupid mistake. I left my drink on the table while I danced in the crowd. Anyone could have walked by and done something to it. I told myself maybe it was just the heat, maybe the exhaustion from traveling. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. After a while, I went to the bathroom. The second I walked in, I realized just how intoxicated I was. I could barely focus my eyes. My stomach twisted, and I ended up throwing up. When I walked back out into the club, I was still dizzy, disoriented, and that's when a man grabbed my arm. He looked young, maybe mid-20s, and I didn't recognize him. I asked him what he was doing, but he just said, "I'll help you down the stairs." I should have pulled away. I should have screamed, but in that foggy, drugged-feeling state, I let him guide me. Once we reached the street, everything changed. He didn't let go. He dragged me down a narrow side alley, away from the main crowd, away from the noise. Before I could even think, he had shoved me into a car. The door slammed shut. My chest tightened. Panic surged through me. I'm small, not very strong. It would have been easy for him to control me. He started driving, and I kept saying, "No, no, stop." But all he said was, "Don't worry, I'm taking you somewhere safe." The way he said it, calm, like it was nothing, was the most terrifying part. I pulled out my phone and opened my map. We were heading out of Padang, farther and farther away from the lights. That's when I had an idea. I told him over and over that if he didn't stop, I was going to throw up all over him and his car. At first, he ignored me, but after a while, my voice must have cut through his patience. With an annoyed sigh, he pulled over to the side of the road. The moment the car stopped, I yanked the door open and bolted. I didn't care where I was running, just away from him. That's when I saw a motorcycle taxi idling nearby. The driver looked at me, concerned, and asked if I needed a ride. I practically jumped onto the back of his bike, yelling my hotel's name. As we sped away, I glanced over my shoulder and saw the man walking quickly down the road, scanning for me. The wind whipped past my face as the motorbike carried me through the night. Finally, I reached the safety of my hotel. That night changed me. I'm not going to bars or clubs alone anymore. I don't care how safe a place looks. I don't trust anyone with my drink. I don't take kindness at face value from strangers. It was my first lesson traveling alone, and maybe the one that saved my life. This is a memory from my childhood, and one that still haunts me to this day. Have you ever seen those jokes online about people acting like fugitives when there's an unexpected knock at the door? The way they freeze, stop whatever they're doing, and quietly drop to the floor so no one sees them through the window? I'm one of those people now, and this is why. I must have been about 7.5 years old. We were visiting family in Kansas, far from my home in South Korea. It was just a summer trip, a chance to see relatives we didn't visit often. That night, my aunt and uncle, along with my parents, had plans for a date night. They ordered pizza for all of us kids before they left. Made sure it was delivered before they even got in the car, so we wouldn't need to open the door for anyone. My aunt and uncle had 2 boys, James, who was 15, and Kyle, who was 8. My older sister, Nicole, was 11, and my baby brother was just 3 years old. When the adults left, we were excited. A whole night of playing games, eating too much junk food, and staying up later than usual. It felt like freedom. About an hour or so after they'd gone, we were in the basement, the game room. The air hockey table clacked in the background. A movie was playing quietly. The smell of pizza still lingered. It was a Kansas summer night, humid but comfortable in the cool basement. I went upstairs with James because I wanted chocolate milk, and I couldn't reach the cups without help. The others stayed downstairs, still caught up in their games. James poured the milk. I drank slowly, enjoying it. He started making snacks for a movie we planned to watch later. Then, the doorbell rang. It wasn't late, but it was strange. We weren't expecting anyone. James froze for a moment, then whispered for me to stay put. He began creeping toward the front door. Before he got halfway there, the doorbell started ringing over and over, rapidly, almost frantically. The sound echoed through the house, sharp and urgent. I looked toward the stairs. Kyle and Nicole were creeping up, drawn by the noise. Only the baby stayed asleep in the guest room crib. James turned, put a finger to his lips, and mouthed for us to be quiet. Despite the lights being on, he wanted whoever was outside to think no one was home. He peered through the peephole and instantly stepped back. The color drained from his face. Downstairs. Now, he whispered. We didn't move. We thought he was messing with us. Nicole shoved past him to look for herself, and when she did, she backed away quickly, looking just as pale. For a while, we stayed frozen, unsure. Then, after what felt like forever, the ringing stopped. Silence. We relaxed, too soon. A loud bang shook the house. But it wasn't at the door this time. It came from behind us. From the kitchen. From the window over the sink. James and Nicole dropped to the floor and crawled toward the kitchen. Seconds later, they scrambled back to us, moving faster than I'd ever seen them. James ordered us low, stay out of sight, and led us crawling into the den, huddling near the fireplace. Then he crawled away again. I didn't know where he was going until he returned, holding a baseball bat. He moved past us toward the back door, where the small doggy door was. It wasn't locked. He slid the latch into place just in time. The moment the lock clicked, the banging grew louder and more violent. And then it stopped. We could hear slow, heavy footsteps across the porch. Thump, thump, thump. The man outside called out, his voice low but firm. Won't you open the door? I have a package for you. We didn't respond. Our breathing was ragged. Our hearts pounded so loud, I thought he'd hear them. Then he spoke again, more forceful. Open the door. I have a package. When we still didn't move, the banging returned, this time against the glass pane of the very room we were in. I know you're in there. I know you can hear me. Open the door, or I'll open it for you. The reinforced glass rattled violently with every hit. No neighbors nearby, no one to hear. While the noise covered our movement, we crawled to another room and grabbed the phone. We called the police. They asked for a description, but all we could say was, tall man, black clothes. Kyle and I decided to risk it. We peeked through a narrow gap in the curtain. He was still there. The shutters on the window had been ripped half off. And then we made eye contact. It didn't feel human. His eyes were dark, empty, animalistic. And when he smiled, it was twisted, almost mocking. Don't you want a mail? He asked softly. I can give it to you if you open the door. I gripped Kyle's hand so tightly my fingers hurt. He yanked the curtain closed. James had had enough. He took the phone from Nicole and shouted through the glass, "Leave us alone. The police are on the way." Everything went quiet. Then, fast footsteps. Movement in the yard. Kyle and I pulled the curtain back again, just in time to see him sprint toward the back fence. Without slowing, he leapt over the massive wooden boards, disappearing into the dark alley behind the house. The police arrived soon after. Our parents, too. The man was never caught. I'm 21 now, and every time the doorbell rings when I'm not expecting someone, my stomach drops, my skin goes cold, and I remember the man in black smiling through the glass.